Mike. Today we are going to talk about one of probably the most classic horror films of all time, Child's Play. You've seen every Saw film,
I
you've seen every
know.
Freddy film, every Jason film. I mean,
Yep.
welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
We are still in the midst of
Halloween Fest.
Halloween Fest.
Mike's got a great, for those listening and not watching, Mike's got a great shirt he's sporting right now, which is I guess it's a Halloween Fest version of Pac-Man, which I effing love that shirt.
The Pac-Man,
So
the pumpkin is a Pac-Man going after the ghosts.
that's really cool. Now, are you going to be sporting that at Spooky Empire?
I might just sport it one
So
day.
the Oh Brother Podcast, now we get it, evergreen of the episodes, but I'm too psyched to say that we're gonna be in the house all weekend at Spooky Empire, the dark side of Comic Con, October 27th through the 29th. Mike, I cannot express how jazzed up I am about this.
I
We've been
know.
talking about this for a long time. I've been wanting to go to Spooky for a long time and haven't even been. So not only are we going to be there in the house together representing the Oh Brother Podcast, we'll be live streaming, but it's the 20th anniversary of Spooky Empire. So it's a big deal. And check out their website and you'll see the lineup is just, and they're continuing to add guests.
Right. And find
So-
us and come over and say hi. We're going to be doing giveaways. We got movies, we got stickers, we got all sorts of stuff.
We're going to have all kinds of merch. We're going to have all kinds of giveaways. Some you'll have to, earn.
Yeah.
But,
Not
some
too hard.
Possibly some horror movie trivia in the house going on or something. But speaking of horror, as you said, Halloween Fest rolling on. And Mike, today we are going to talk about one of probably the most classic horror films of all time, Child's Play, which of course came out November 9th, 1988. So we're rolling up on, as of this recording, very close to the 35th anniversary of Child's Play. So it's pretty exciting to be talking
Amazing.
about it. And here's what I love. And this is the great thing, not only about Halloween Fest, but for me, the great thing about doing the podcast is that, as is the case with Child's Play, I'd never seen Child's Play before,
Which is shocking. to
which
me.
is ridiculous. It's
Yes.
ridiculous, And I was a
Now-
sophomore. I was a sophomore in high school when this came out. By the way,
Yeah. Like why you didn't see this? Because
well, think about it though. Think about it. I'm sophomore. I'm what? I'm 17. So technically,
you could have gone.
well, it's rated R.
Right, but you could have gone
You
with
know.
me.
Sure.
This is my
Sure.
son.
You weren't exactly coming around the house much asking me to go to movies. as I
Yeah,
recall.
in '88 I was gone actually, so
Oh, that's true. You
I
were in
wasn't
Florida.
even here. Yeah.
You were in Florida, yeah. But so Child's Play comes out November 9th, 1988. It's rated R. Directed by Tom Holland.
hmm
Written by Don Mancini, John Lafia, both kind of collaborated on that with the screenplay. What are you pointing to?
I'm just saying Don Mancini is the guy who created the doll, the Chucky doll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So the main players of the cast, you've got Catherine Hicks.
hmm
She was in the series Ryan's Hope. For anybody who remembers that, do you remember
She
Ryan's
was-
Hope?
No.
Way back. She was also in Star Trek: The Voyage Home. She was in
She
that film.
spent a lot of years on like an angel show, Promising Angel, or I don't even know the
Really?
name.
Yeah. She was in a lot of those kind of like 80s.
Yeah, she
series,
did a
at
good
the time.
10 years on that, I think.
Mhm, yeah. Chris Sarandon, no relation to Susan Sarandon. right?
No, no, but
Chris
he's
Sarandon.
a well, when you see him, you
A good
recognize
character
him.
actor. Yeah,
He's a
exactly.
good character actor, yeah.
Somebody who's going to be in attendance at Spooky Empire is Alex Vincent, who of course plays Andy.
And he's back in the scene.
Yeah,
in
he's
the
what, like,
Child's Play universe, and I'll get to that because there's this
yeah.
TV show and a remake of the '88 movie, and what's that all about? We'll talk about that.
You give us all the 411 on that. Yeah. And then of course, great actor Brad Durif. plays Charles Lee Ray, who also voices Chucky.
Mhm. And
We'll get into that
he's
whole
voiced him for
backstory.
every movie except the remake, and he's on the TV show, along with Jennifer Tilly and all these other characters
Mhm.
that have shown up in movies over the years.
It's yeah, that's another thing about Halloween Fest. It's I'm shocked because you've this is where you've demonstrated the surprise to me, your deep knowledge of the horror genre for two guys that aren't really,
Right.
hardcore horror guys.
We're not.
You've seen every Saw film,
I
you've seen
know.
every Freddy film, every Jason film. I mean,
Yep.
I got to tip my hat. But Brad Dourif, of course, we were talking about this the other day when we were talking about doing the episode, and of course, I just always think Billy Bibbit from One
I
Flew Over the
know.
Cuckoo's Nest,
Fantastic.
and of course, he was in Rob Zombie's Halloween, which is just
Right. He played
great.
Sheriff Brackett.
He did, and he was really amazing in that.
Yeah.
There was really some good acting in that
Like
from him.
Tobin Bell, like Robert Englund, he's one of these guys that's a great actor
Right.
that got into a franchise. He co-starred in
Mm.
Child's Play, which shocked me because
Right.
without him, you don't have a movie, and every sequel is him, and
Yeah.
the TV show is him, and now his daughter's involved, and she sounds just like him. She voices Chucky sometimes.
Now, at the
So
time, if you see some of the behind the scenes at the time, I don't think he seemed to not associate himself with it because he was only in it in the beginning physically.
yeah, but his voice is throughout.
But now, yeah, and as you say, with these kind of reiterations and
Mhm.
other interpretations of it or what have you, or iterations, I should say, of it. Back at the time, just to kind of get the rundown, a budget of $9 million worldwide. It made about 44 million bucks. It was filmed and set in Chicago and Illinois, I should say, not Chicago necessarily. But you want to give these quick synopsis of this one? It's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. It starts out two guys robbing a or getting chased by a cop. One of them's the driver and he takes off on Brad Dourif, leaves Brad Dourif stranded. He goes into a toy store. And in the toy store, he kind of falls over into there's this whole good guy. That's the name of it. The name of the doll isn't really Chucky, it's good guy.
Yeah.
And then you give it a name. So
Mhm.
he falls over and Sarandon clocks him a couple times. So he's dying and he winds up using voodoo to transfer his body or his being
His soul.
into one of these good guy dolls.
Right.
And then Catherine Hicks, who plays the mom, winds up buying that particular doll from a vendor out behind her work.
A peddler out in the
Right,
alley. Yeah.
right. And, you know, Chucky's born, basically.
Right. Yeah, now it was going to be the original working title was Batteries Not Included, but at the time, of course, Stephen King was getting
That's
ready to
right.
put out a project, Batteries Not Included, right? And then it becomes Blood Buddy, which I love. I kind of wish it
Right,
stayed Blood Buddy. That's a great
right.
title. But ultimately, it ends up, becoming Child's Play.
It's also been remade, which I sort of mentioned, and I'll talk about it more, but in the remake, they're called Good Buddies. They're not called
Oh,
Good
so they
Guys
did a
anymore.
mashup of the
Yeah, it's weird because
interesting.
it's a remake, yet they make these little adjustments.
Now, who is because I don't, more of this franchise than me, but is Tom Holland any of these original guys involved, or
It's a new team,
it's a new team?
which
Okay.
isn't didn't sit well with Don Mancini. He's
Mm,
like, "We gave you 6 sequels that
mm,
were, a lot of them made a lot of money." And he
yeah.
felt, I think, betrayed. MGM owns the rights to the original Child's Play, but that's it.
Hmm.
So a lot of times, like I have the box set behind me here
Yeah.
with that has 6 of the movies, and then there's a 7th movie beside that, Cult of Chucky. And MGM can only remake the first one, and now they can do a sequel off that remake, but they can't be involved in the original anymore. So the rights are all screwed up. And
As
Mancini
often
wasn't
happens,
happy. Wasn't
wasn't
happy.
happy.
He created the doll.
Mm.
wrote the story.
Although the story changed quite a bit
Mhm,
from his original concept, right? I mean, it was gonna be, Andy the kid.
mhm.
It was supposed to be sort of like the doll was gonna be imbued with his kind of id, right? And all the people that had wronged him, and it was gonna be him kind of lashing out at all the people that have wronged him in his life. There wasn't this voodoo bit. That was not part of Mancini's
Right.
original idea. So I think his idea got watered down quite a bit by the time they get to the final script, which so he's probably perhaps held a grudge ever since,
Yeah,
you know,
because he took the
the beginning.
franchise to Universal. That's why Universal has a Chucky house now.
Right. I wanted to mention too, we talked about the kind of the main cast, but there was 2 others I wanted to mention, or 3 actually. One was, this character Maggie, who's played by Dina, Manoff. And I don't know if
The
it's Dinah,
babysitter.
maybe Dinah Manoff, because like Dinah Shore, I'm thinking of,
Mhm.
which is an old reference for us. But she played Marty in Grease, and yeah, she's very recognizable
Oh,
to people of our generation. But
yeah.
she's in a pretty good third of the movie in the beginning.
The first act is
The
really
first act,
her.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And then you've got character Doctor Ardmore. You can talk about played by Jack Colvin, and I said, "Geez, I know this guy, another character actor." And I had to go, "Where did I know him from?" And he was in the Incredible Hulk TV series, which of course
Yeah, that was a favorite of
I was a
yours.
big fan of. Yeah.
You know what? I was surprised, having not watched it in a while, I was surprised how long it took to get to that 3rd act where
Mm,
Chucky comes, not comes to life, but becomes animated, where
mhm.
his facial and, there's like at that time, it took 6 people to operate Chucky,
Yeah, I think it was Kevin Yeager who was the main, what
the
do you call it, the puppet
puppeteer.
engineer, yeah, what have
Yeah.
you.
Especially given now that if you watch the TV show, everybody is back from
Mm.
the original,
Like
except
who?
for,
Like
like,
who?
well, Brad Dourif, number 1, Jennifer Tilly, who becomes a major character when they hit Bride of Chucky. From
Okay.
Bride of Chucky on, Jennifer
Okay.
Tilly's in every one. Seed of Chucky, which is a sequel, that doll is in the new series.
Mhm.
The crew, Don Mancini, Don
Okay.
Kirshner, they're all part of this TV show, and
Is it
it's
Dawn
really
or
the same crew, basically.
David Kirshner?
Alex Vincent, who plays
Yeah,
Andy, is in the TV show. I mean,
and
it's really remarkable.
what is Alex's role?
He plays himself. He plays Andy Barkley.
Oh,
Not
does he?
himself, but yeah, he plays Andy Barkley.
So it's set, this is set sort of, oh, that's interesting. So what
Yeah.
is the how many seasons has this been?
This week kicked off its 3rd season.
So what is the whole premise behind this?
It's honestly, it's not very good. It's all over the place. It's like,
Uh But
let's
well, it's back for a 3rd season, it can't be
it
that,
right.
I
So
mean,
people are watching it, and I'll tell you, Dan, you would not believe how timid the original Child's Play is. They get progressively more gory and
I
horror
could believe that. Yeah, I
horror,
could believe that.
but the TV show, there's F-bombs, uh I mean, they exploded a guy. They
Well,
exploded a priest.
there was a lot of that in Child's Play. There's a scene with this older couple on an elevator, one of these
Mhm.
indoor elevators, like it's kind of an
Yes.
open elevator, and the couple's like, "Oh, someone left their doll in the elevator," and the husband is like, "Ah, leave. It's, whoever owns it will come and get it." And then the older woman's stepping out of the elevator, she looks back and goes, "Ugly doll,"
Yeah.
and then walks away, and you hear, "You."
Look, George, some child left their doll in the elevator.
Now leave it alone. Whoever left it there will come back looking for it.
Ugly doll. You.
Brad
From
Dourif.
Chucky.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, it's on Sci-Fi Network USA, and then it's
Mm,
also on Peacock. Like, you can watch the first 2 seasons right now
mm,
straight through on Peacock. The
mhm,
new one, there's only one new one, um, which is a little toned down, I noticed. I don't know if that's on purpose,
mm.
but it's on Sci-Fi or USA. So I think this week it was only on Sci-Fi, but I
Mhm.
did catch it, and it's funny to see Alex Vincent back playing himself. He comes back in Cult of Chucky. He plays himself, and we find out that his whole life he was obsessed with Chucky, and he's got the head of the Chucky doll
From the
from
original film?
from the original film in a cage, and he's keeping him prisoner.
Well, but the way it ended, that head was all on it was like Terminator 2, you
And
know?
that's what it looks like in the
It
cage.
does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all burnt, and when you watch the sequels, which I don't think you've seen any of the sequels, but,
No,
like, you saw the thing was burnt to a crisp at the end of the movie,
it was, yeah.
spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it,
It's
but
only been 35 years, folks.
yeah, and so if you haven't seen it.
I mean, I hadn't seen it, so to be
Right,
fair.
but they literally start off that movie by, like, cleaning it up. Like, you would just chuck it and get a new mold, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Considering I've watched them all and I have the box set behind me, um, it was much tamer than
Mhm.
I realized or remembered.
Well, there's not a lot of again, this is not a horror film with a lot of blood and guts.
It becomes that. It
Right,
definitely
in these
becomes that.
other iterations and things you're talking
Yes.
about. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, but this one isn't. I mean, it's kind of, typical of the day when we've talked about this on the podcast before, but one of the things that stood out to me was, Joe Renzetti's score of the film, right? It's very classic, that kind of sort of 80s
Mhm.
horror synth vibe going on, and,
Right.
that's as big a part of the tone of this kind of film, but at least back then, of
Yeah.
anything else. I thought the acting, you think about Alex was great
Mhm.
as this kid. I saw one of the behind the scenes documentaries where he was talking about, doing the like in the casting, the read throughs or whatever, the
Mhm.
audition process. And that scene where he has to say, the bitch got what she deserved.
Right.
He's just telling his
He's
mother
parroting
what Chucky said.
Chucky's words.
Exactly. And Alex, as a little kid, had a problem with saying that.
Yeah.
So every time the line would come up, he would pretend that he didn't remember the line. This went on like 3 times.
Right.
Finally, he admits, "I was uncomfortable with saying it." So they said, "You know what? The kid is so good. He made us think that he kept forgetting the line. This kid's got it."
Right.
And they
Right.
cast him, and he really was, he was so believable. And what was he,
Yeah.
8 years old at that time, or
Yeah.
something?
I mean, as little kids go, I've always thought, is it Henry Thomas from
Henry
E.T.?
Thomas and Mitzi, yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's the best child performance I've
Mm,
ever seen.
that's pretty good.
But, this is a pretty strong one too.
I think he deserves a lot of credit, and I'm looking forward to chatting him up at Spooky Empire because I'm a fan of his now. But him and Catherine Hicks, all of them, to play those reactions off of this idea, this doll, and how insane it is, they
Right.
made it very believable,
Right.
and I think that made it that much more terrifying is maybe a strong word, certainly not my case, but I felt a build of tension throughout, and
You know,
I thought it was pretty well done.
Child's Play 3, they jumped ahead a little bit. He's in military school, basically because he keeps telling these stories to
Well,
shrinks.
let me ask you about that. Let me not to interrupt, but because we don't get the backstory in the film.
Mhm.
Where's his father? What's the whole setup to where they're not believing him, and
Well, the
do we
father
get that as it goes on?
Yeah, the father has died. We get that in the first one. You probably missed it. It's real quick.
Oh, I did,
It's
yeah.
like, "Is he up in heaven with daddy?" A line like
Oh,
that.
okay, maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, the dad's out of the picture, and now in Child's Play 2, we see a picture of Catherine Hicks, but, um,
She's not made any appearances?
she's not made any she's the only one really that hasn't
That's a
return.
shame. Now, do you know if they've approached? I gotta believe they've approached her about
I would think so. I
and she
don't
seemed to speak
know.
fondly of her experience with it, so
Yeah, I'm
wonder.
surprised she wasn't in 2, and the same with Sarandon. I'm surprised he wasn't in 2.
Mm,
But once they're out of the picture, when they get to 3, it's almost like kind of like a wiping of the board,
okay.
and he's in military school, and it's not Alex Vincent anymore. They cast an older kid,
Mm.
which, I think
I
it might have hurt it a little bit.
Yeah, I almost like the idea of, like you said, he's playing Andy Barclay,
Right,
now or
right.
current day, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it's got if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 73% from the critics, 65% from the audience, which is very surprising that those would be reversed in this
Correct.
case. I'd
I would
expect
think
the
they would be
opposite.
reversed, yeah.
58 Metascore IMDb, which you tend to give a little bit more credence to.
Yeah, and that's pretty solid. More
Yeah,
than
yeah.
50%.
Yeah, I think so. But I can see why this is a cult favorite. I mean, it's fun and the
If you think
performances.
about it, it's a prelude to Megan, right? I
Sure.
mean, if you look at Megan probably might not exist without Chucky, and even the remake,
Hmm.
okay? The remake, it's more of like, Ciri built into a Chucky doll. The
Hmm.
doll itself looks totally different, has
Yeah.
a totally different face. It's voiced by
Mark
your
Hamill.
your friend Mark Hamill,
Mark Hamill.
and, he always does a great job with voices,
Well, what's the
and
other one that you love so much that he's known for?
well, the Joker.
The
He's
Joker.
like the
Yeah.
ultimate Joker. I mean,
Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
wasn't for Heath Ledger, I think
Mm.
people who know the animated know Mark
Yeah.
Hamill's Joker. It's
For
great,
sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can't hear him. It's funny, in the new Child's Play, um, when the mother brings it home and gives the mother's played by Aubrey
Oh.
Plaza
Oh, really?
from White Lotus. Anyways, when she gives the doll, it's defective, and it's all you gotta plug it into a USB to charge it.
A little updating of the
Yeah,
references.
they
Yeah. The
modernize
technology.
it quite a bit, but
I like that.
it's like having Siri built in. You call, "Chucky, turn on the TV. Chucky, turn the lights off," and it
Hmm.
follows the commands. So that's
Sure.
kind of a smart update.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's a benefit of doing the podcast. It's a benefit of doing a Halloween Fest at Oh Brother Podcast because I it kind of sort of forces me in a sense to finally check off some of these movies that I should have seen 35 years ago.
Well,
Let's
I
be
was
honest.
watching our latest rewind, which was The Shining,
That's right.
and you're talking about how much you like Stanley Kubrick,
And yet I saw like
and
two of his movies.
I still got movies for you to watch. I've
Well,
seen every Stanley
Lolita.
Kubrick
There's a
movie.
handful I haven't seen yet, which is crazy.
Lolita's probably would be my
Well,
last.
but it's Kubrick. I mean, it's got to be seen.
Yeah, yeah.
But so thumbs up, thumbs down. Where we at with Chucky?
You know, I've got them all,
Yeah.
and so obviously I liked the first one. I
Hmm.
think they get sillier and sillier and harder to swallow.
Yeah, but that's some of the that's what makes it entertaining, right?
Yeah, and when they bring in Fiona Durif, which is Brad's daughter, that
Right.
rejuiced it for me because
Hmm.
she's like her dad.
Yeah.
And when she gets into this Chucky mindset, like what happens is Chucky goes in and out of her every time she sees blood. That creates that brings Chucky out in her. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden she puts this look on her face and out the voice, you're like, holy, it sounds just like her dad.
It's interesting because when we talked to Nick Matthews,
Yeah.
about Saw X, he had made a comment about how we've said it before during Halloween Fest too, how there's almost like this kind of not that it really ever certainly didn't die off, but the kind of rebirth or reemergence of horror to a
Mhm.
different level right now. It feels like
Yeah.
there's a place for horror that there Hasn't been for quite some time. It feels like anyways. And, I was wondering about Child's Play too. Like, did this, being a ginger at the time, was that a rough go? I wonder if
Well,
redheads in school were getting
it's
teased because of this
interesting
film.
that you say that because in the remake, Audrey Plaza works at like a Walmart or a Kmart. It's
Where
something
they
like,
sell the
it's a
good guy
fake one
dolls or
where
whatever,
they
yeah.
sell them and a guy brings it back and he's like, "What's the deal with this? This is a ginger. I wanted the blonde one." And
Ah,
she looks at him and says, "I don't think it's okay to say that, but the
mm,
blonde one is Chucky, the what Good Buddy 2 model. This is the Good Buddy 1 model, which has red hair, as you can clearly see through the front of the package." He's like shaming the guy.
that's good.
It's pretty funny.
That's
But,
interesting,
it's
and,
weird that you brought that up because that's in the new movie,
I literally
the
made a note
remake.
because I did think, I could see that being a thing in our society where you're a redhead and good lord, it's hard enough, and then this movie comes out, and it's this demented doll. I mean,
Yeah.
I can imagine that would have been a rough go, but, well, like I said, I'm psyched that I've checked this one off my list. It's another classic in Child's Play from 1988, but yeah, Halloween
Now,
Fe
if you had kids, somebody
yeah.
like Paul Veras, a friend of ours, would you
Well, we say his name again?
Paul.
I think
I always
I think
screw up
you
last names.
I think, was it the Italian where we replace B's with V's? Is
Yeah,
that what it is?
Veras. No, that's
Okay, there
not
you
that's
go.
like,
You said like Varus. I don't know.
yeah,
And
a
he is
V
gonna
came
see
out,
this, so,
right, but he's got kids. Would you
yeah.
recommend he sit down and watch Child Play with his kids?
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
that's I
no,
think where
because
I'm at.
and honestly, I think more for the language than I do almost the violence. Although there's, there's violence in it, of course,
Yeah.
but the language too is just as bad. So no,
Yeah,
I'd
and
say
it get
no.
like I said, it gets worse, and if you
Yeah.
have kids, keep them away from the TV show. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Don Mancini. I like your work, but it's
Well,
way
it's a fair warning, and it's not made for kids,
no, it isn't,
you know?
but it definitely crosses some lines.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be crossing some lines at Spooky Empire come October 27th through the 29th. We're gonna be,
And
celebrate
you won't have to wait in line to come see Oh Brother.
well, I don't know if you should put it that way. I mean, could be quite a line at the, Oh Brother podcast table.
No Halloween
Well,
fest? I
it's
mean,
getting, it's at the cleaners, so I brought out the original
oh, the original
Halloween
Halloween
Fest Oh
fest.
Brother mug, yeah, and we've got, I told you, you saw the, first, official Oh Brother sticker.
Yeah.
What would a podcast be without, someone hawking stickers? Although the difference is, if you come and see us at Spooky Empire, we're gonna be giving away those stickers, folks,
Right, we're
so
not shilling them out for money,
we're not shilling them
so
out. That's not how
this
we
is
do it here at the
not
Oh Brother
Chilly
Podcast.
Willy.
I mean, Mike, is in debt up to his ears over Oh Brother mugs, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And those are just the ones that you and I have, so it's
Yeah,
pretty
I know,
insane.
I mean, there's
Yeah,
a lot of
but,
people out there with, our mugs.
yeah, but if you're gonna be in the Orlando area, October 27th to 29th, make sure that you stop by and you visit our table. We're gonna be there all weekend. Lots of fun things happening, and of course, we're gonna be covering the event the whole weekend too, so it's gonna be a
And if
lot
we're
going
not
on.
giving stuff out when you come up to us and you've heard this, just ask us. Maybe we might have some, you know,
Don't make
under the
promises that
table.
your ass can't keep. Yeah, under the table. All right, well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
Boo, everybody.